Hello, beautiful people. How are you today? I hope you're all well. I thought I'd show you how I do one of my paintings. This is a 10 by 12-inch canvas board. It's been triple gesso primed, so I don't have to paint the background in. And before I started recording, I'd added a little bit of white just above where I put the light yellow. And now I added some soft yellow, followed by some yellow ochre. I'm making a nice sunrise scene here. And for that, we need a little bit more brightness in the sky, I think, a little bit more yellow. I love painting simple scenes, simple, cheerful morning scenes. So here we're adding some cerulean blue that I've already mixed with a little bit of white just to make it a bit lighter, because otherwise it would have been, I think, a little bit too heavy for what I wanted. So I'm just brushing it onto the page, just putting it in roughly where I want it. It's the whole fun of art, is you just get to do what you want to do. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect. Don't worry about tiny, itty-bitty little details. Nobody's going to see them. Nobody's going to see your little mistakes. All they're going to see is the finished product. Most people don't look that closely at art, believe me, to see anything silly that you've done. So here I am, still brushing on some nice cerulean blue that's been mixed with a little bit of white to give it a nice light blue morning feel to it. We want this to be a light sunrise in the background. I've now just started adding some ultramarine blue with a little bit of white mixed in it again, because I didn't want the colours to be too heavy in the sky. And I'm just dipping it into the paint and whooshing it backwards and forwards until I cover the canvas. So often people paint skies just one solid colour, and they very rarely are. So it's nice to mix it up, and even if you've got straight lines, people won't notice. You don't need to blend it if you don't want to. In hindsight, I would have liked to have blended my pale blue more into the blue, into the white rather, and more of the yellow into the white, just to give it a more subtle look. But believe it or not, the actual finished product come out perfectly, so I'm not really so bothered. I've gone back and picked up some more soft yellow because I didn't think it was bright enough. So I'm just whooshing it backwards and forwards with a small brush across the page. It's quite often I go over things. I go over them 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times sometimes. I have paintings that have got about 10 layers of paint on them before I'm happy with what I'm doing. I just removed the hair there that came out of the brush. And it's getting there. It's getting it's getting the look I want. I'm feeling it here. So now I'm taking off the washi tape. I use washi tape because it doesn't stick as badly and it gives you a nice neat line. I'm going to turn it upside down and put it just so the tiniest amount of yellow is shown underneath of it, because I'm now going to do the bottom half of the painting. The sky's finished and I don't want any of those colours to go and to bleed over onto the nice sky that I've just done. So I've picked up some burnt sienna and I added a little bit of white into that as well, because I find sometimes the colours are a little too dark for what I want. And you're thinking, she's using brown. Why is she using brown? You'll see why I'm using brown when I finish. And I'm just filling in the edges, just around the edges, because I want this to have a nice reflective glow by the time I finish. So I'm just putting some little bits of burnt umber up this right-hand side. And just filling it in. It doesn't have to be perfect. There's loads of little gaps in this because we're going to be putting more colours on top. So it doesn't really matter if there's little white bits showing, because other colours are going to be going over them. So here I am, still swooshing backwards and forwards, giving a nice sort of patchiness to the paint. I want it to actually bleed through to other colours, so just giving it a good swoosh around. I'm now going over to the left side, and the same principle, just swooshing the colours, the burnt sienna backwards and forwards, so that I get both sides basically covered. It's very hard actually narrating something like this after you've painted it. I'd actually recorded earlier, and then I realised the recording I'd made, I was waffling. And I'm waffling again now. It's brilliant, isn't it? I don't have to listen to it, so I'm happy. So here I am. I'm just finishing off the little brown bits that I want to do, this first part of the brown. And as you can see, I'm just filling in some little gaps that are a little bit too white. I'm swishing the paint backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. I don't even know what brush number I used on that one. I think it was a 4 or a 5, but with a straight edge. I was just whooshing. I just I pull out whatever brush I feel like at the time. Right, now I've gone back to the yellow ochre, only this time I've used it a lot deeper. And I'm putting it all down the centre. And you're starting to realise that there's a bit of sunshine going through something there. It's going to be water. Yeah, brown water. It looks so effective when it's finished. Don't be frightened of using the darker colours. The darker colours sometimes can give the most amazing effects. You don't always have to use blue for water. Blue is lovely if you're doing a nice Mediterranean or Caribbean sea. But most parts of the world, we don't have those colours in our water. We have whatever's reflected around. You'll have green, you'll have browns, you'll have muddy colours. So don't be scared to put some darker colours into your paintings, into your waters. It makes it nice, it makes it vibrant, and it gives it a different look. So here I am brushing more of this yellow ochre up and down, going backwards and forwards with the brush until I get the look I want. I've now picked up some burnt umber, a darker brown, but I did again add a little bit of white to it because I didn't want white as dark as what comes out of the tube. So I'm brushing it backwards and forwards, down the middle more to this at the moment, just so that I can get it bleeding into that yellow. And brushing backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. Nice easy strokes. This is such a pleasant, gentle, a very relaxing thing to do, is just brushing paint onto a canvas. I'd love to see it if you decide to paint along with this and do one yourself and let me see what you've done. So here we are, we're all up one side. We've got it roughly where we want it in the middle. Now I'm going to start doing the edges, I believe. Yep, so here we go. Just filling in the edges, just putting some little dashes. I'm not actually making it a solid colour. I want to mix it with other colours. So it's not completely solid. It's just a little bit. There's still going to be gaps in between each bit. Still some of the burnt sienna showing through. So I'm going all the way up to the edges. And every now and again I'm having to pull off paint off the edge because the canvas boards are quite thin and they tend to gather a lot of paint on the edges when you paint this way. So I'll be brushing that up in a moment. But we're just going backwards and forwards. Nice, even, gentle strokes. Giving it quite a patchy look in many ways. Started on the other side now. And we're doing exactly the same. Just nice little even strokes backwards and forwards across the page. Just giving it that nice, even look now to get it so that the white all disappears and it blends into the nice yellow ochre centre. And I don't know why I decided to use brown today. It's just one of those moods. I must be feeling like I need a little bit more earthing. But it's very nice to actually just sit there and use a different colour and brush the paint backwards and forwards. This whole painting took me about 45 minutes because I didn't stop. Normally I stop halfway through, but because I was recording, I decided not to let bits of it dry. I just carried on. And sometimes you can do that. Sometimes you like to let them dry a bit quicker. Sometimes I'll get the hair dryer out and dry things quicker because I'm impatient. And that is a Sagittarius trait, and I'm sorry, but it's just the way I am. So here I am, still doing this brown. Seems to be taking forever, doesn't it? It does when you're talking over and doing a voiceover afterwards. It seems to take forever. I've already shortened this video by 20 minutes. I don't think I could shorten it any further. So we've now added a little bit of black into the burnt umber, just to give it a really deep brown look. And we're just going to do some little bits and pieces around the edges, just to give it a little bit more shadowing towards the edges. And we're going backwards and forwards, but not going quite so far in, not so far into the centre this time. We're just really using the edges, just giving it a nice little darkness. And it looks very tatty at the moment. It doesn't look like anything, but believe me, this is the bit of the process that you look at and you go, what am I doing? And then you realise it's going to come together. It will come together. It always does. So we're moving over to the left side now, and we're doing exactly the same. A little bit of dark shadowing with some burnt umber and black mixed together. And we're swooshing it over to the middle. And if you notice, the canvas is a little bit offlined. I am learning how to video. This is all new to me. I've never done this before. I've usually used just photographs and put them together in a sequence. So actually learning to record and where to put my camera and everything is a bit of a nightmare. And I am only using a mobile phone and a video lamp. So it's quite complicated at the moment. I'm now adding a little bit more soft yellow because I've decided the yellow was a little bit brighter than I wanted. So I've got some more of the soft yellow that I mixed with some white earlier. And I'm just going across and blending in those shadows, blending in those browns, those burnt sienna bits, so that the light is now scattering. Because that's what I want, is I want a look of scattered light on water. And I'm going backwards and forwards, just gently doing it, just a little bit at a time, not putting too much paint on the brush, and just going backwards and forwards just so I can blend those edges in a little bit more. And they're getting there. It's obviously getting there. I'm still putting some more lines in, some more little sections of this soft yellow, just to blend it in, just so I've got a lovely reflection all the way down the centre of the page. And it's getting there. And now I believe, yep, a little bit more, just that end bit, because it's not quite there, is it? And we're mixing it, and while we're doing it, the brush is blending the burnt sienna into the edges, so it's got more of a diffused look, more natural, not so jagged and hard. I can't believe how much yellow I put on this page. It never seems quite as long while you're actually doing it. So a little bit more yellow here and there, just to give it the whole look that I wanted. It's giving a nice diffracted look, nice and diffused. A little bit more yellow. You can never have enough sunshine. Lots and lots of sunshine. And we're now moving the washi tape. And as you can see, I've got a lovely straight horizon now. And here we've mixed up a little bit of burnt umber with some white and some bright orange to give it a nice browny orange look. I do like the brown orange, it's a bit autumnal looking. And I'm just smushing the paint, just dabbing it onto the page and leaving a little gap underneath it because we're making some mountains here. And we're just jabbing it along because they're the furthest ones in the distance and they've got more light on them, so they're actually going to be lighter. Whereas the ones in front of them are going to be a bit darker because the sun is being blocked onto them. So we've just done our little bit of orange and burnt umber with not white, and we smushed it in to make a little hillside. And we're now going to add some more burnt umber, and this one wasn't watered down with any white, so it's quite dark in colour. And we're just going along the edge of that hill, and then we're going to go further along, and we're going to bring the mountains all the way along across the page, but doing the top only at the moment because we've got more to put in front. So we're just dabbing it on, lots and lots of little dabs, because it gives it a nice little texture and makes it more natural looking when it dries, because you don't get solid mountains, you don't get solid hillsides. When the sun is breaking through and shining through, you're going to get little lighter areas on them. And by dabbing it like this, you're going to get the little bit yellow underneath showing through. So it actually looks more like a textured effect. So here we are, dabbing on more. I wasn't 100% sure how I was going to make these mountains. I just knew I was going to put some in the distance. So I'm just dabbing them on, and in a minute I'm going to add a few more extra little hilly areas. So we're dabbing it all on with the burnt umber. Smush, smush, smush. I was actually singing while I was doing this. So they go, I love doing dotty work. Anything where you sit there and repetitively put a brush onto a page really appeals to me. It's slow, but it's fun. It's better, and it looks so much better than a solid colour when it dries. So there we go. We've put our first little mountainy, extra mountainy area in it, and we're putting another one on the ends. And can't be too far off now. Still smudging up a few of the little gaps that are a little too light. Some areas can look a little bit too light, so just put an extra little layer of paint. Don't worry about the paint being thick, it dries, it really does, it can just take a little longer. We're now adding black, because these mountains and hills are in the foreground, but the sun is behind, so it's not going to be able to light them up, so they'll actually quite easily be black, because they're not, you can't see them. That's me just making sure that I know where I'm working from. And we're dabbing it on. Just dabbing on lots of little black. We've got it quite thick on the paintbrush, and we're smushing it on because we want this to be a very dark area. I'm going to have to get myself a new easel. This one keeps moving while I'm working, which is very irritating. That's why I've got one hand holding it, because if I push too hard, the whole thing moves backwards and out of frame, which is a bit annoying. But then what do you expect for a cheap little easel? I mean, but it goes to show you can do everything. You can do this sitting at a desk. That's where I normally work. I normally work flat. For a change, I've got the easel out. It's been a while since I've got the easel out. But to show it on camera, it's so much easier to use the easel than it is to actually lie them down flat and try and video them this way. But next time I will video it from the other side, because I am right-handed and I've noticed my hand keeps getting in the way as I'm working. I'm now just blending the very bottom of the black right across, just to give a nice bit of shadow, and then I'm going to smush a little bit more black in the areas that I've blended, just to give it that nice rough effect again, just so when it dries it actually layers in, because otherwise you're going to have straight lines where I've just smushed it across the page and tried to blend it a little bit. So here we go, the mountains are nearly finished. And just the last few little smooches of black paint, just to make sure that the rough areas look rough. And I think you're getting the gist of the painting now. You can see that there is water. It's got, I'm just painting in a little white, extra round white ball of sun there. Just to brighten up that little centre area. I did think about adding a little bit of yellow to it, but because I had yellow underneath, I didn't want to do that. So I've just made it a pure white ball. And now I'm going to measure down, go straight down in a moment, and guess roughly about where the actual reflection will go. You'll see me do this. She says when the video eventually gets there. There you go. Roughly there. So we're just going to put a couple of little lines of white. I've not put a lot of brush paint on the brush there. I've used it quite tightly, and I'm just smushing a little bit of white in little areas just to give it a little highlight, to say that the main bit of the sun is actually reflecting there. I do love painting. It's very relaxing. It's very calming in this crazy world that we're in at the moment. To be able to do something that's far more positive. Life is quite dark on this planet at the moment, with everything that's going on. And it's not that it's all new and going on now. It's been going on forever. Right, we've now got the black paint on, and we're going to do some nice long lines. But as I was saying, life just seems dark. It's not that it's any darker on this planet or any more evil than it ever has been. It's just being exposed. While it's being exposed, the dark side is going to fight us tooth and nail. So while they do, we've just got to hang in there, stay positive, and keep spreading love and light. And one way to spread light is put it in a painting. Make it cheerful. Do some beautiful things. Paint what you want to see in the world. Right, this next bit's going to take quite a while. I did try to figure out how to speed up the video, but I've got absolutely no idea. This is the first time I've used this video editor, and you're lucky to have got it as short as it is. I'm not very good at this. I'm sure with time I'll get better, but at the moment I'm finding it complicated. I think the word is complicated. So I'm just making sure that little line's all ready. Now this line is not straight by any means. It's got quite a few little jaggy bits in it. But in nature, things aren't straight. You don't get straight lines. So I'm going to put another little one on the side. These are going to be like reed grasses. And I've decided to stick one down by the side. And I'll be putting a few more in other strategic places. I did paint this on paper last night, and that's quite often how I do my bigger canvases and my canvas work, is I will paint it on paper first. But it's 160 GSM paper, so it can actually hold the paint. And I'll paint it on that, and then later I'll actually put it onto a canvas. I do work a bit weird when I'm doing lines because I like to put the bottom in where I know I'm going to be joining up to. I find that much easier. So we're going down and we're just putting it in. We're going to put a couple more little reeds over here. Pampas grasses, reeds, whatever they are. They're just leafy things. Another one at the side. And now we're going to start putting some leaves on. And like I said, I wish I could have sped this up. I'll have to figure out if I can find a different video editor that will help me speed it up faster, as in fast forward it. I just can't get it to do it on this one. I'm sure there is a program out there that will help me fast forward clips and make them go faster so that you can actually watch them quicker. But at the moment, this is the only one I can get to work. I've actually got 3 video editors on my computer. And the only reason I've got 3 is I've had to download this one because the other 2, I just can't. They've made them so complicated. Why do people make programs so complicated? And to make the leaves, I'm just dabbing a little bit of paint and then just making random shapes because the leaves are never identical, ever. There's nothing perfect about nature. Its perfection is in its imperfections. So I've just got a bit of paint on a small brush and I'm just painting general leaf shapes. And don't forget, some leaves will point up and some will fold down. Some will turn to the side. It's all fun. Just do what feels natural. Just see little lines and just add a little leaf. And they're starting, the painting now is starting to come together. It's starting to look more like I want it to. So we're adding more leaves, and this will take a little while. What shall we talk about while we're waiting? I have no idea now. I'm sort of stuck now of conversations. Some of you are probably saying, well, yeah, shut up, woman. But I've been painting on and off for a few years. I actually had a couple of years off because I was ill. And when you're feeling sick, the last thing you want to do is get all the paints out. Plus, I was living somewhere where I had to paint at the kitchen table and there wasn't an awful lot of space. And every time we were having dinner, I had to put everything away and it was very annoying. So it sort of takes away from the pleasure of painting. But now we've moved to a different house. I've got a very big front room and I can actually get my easel out and my desk is all set up where I need it with plenty of light. So I can actually paint here anytime I want, which is lovely. And I do quite often. I mean, as by my earlier video, you see, I've just done a 2-month challenge where I took a sketchbook and just kept painting day after day after day. And it's amazing how quickly you actually learn how to get that memory working again and make it realise what it's doing again. It's just a matter of practice and figuring out what paintbrush you can use for what effects, and making sure you don't lean your hand on the actual painting while you're painting, which is there. I'm actually hovering over the painting, and it's a bit annoying. This bit here was a little hard because the mountains hadn't dried yet, so I was having a bit of fun trying to get bits in. So I was painting on the little stalks ready to put the leaves on. It's just showing you that you can do it any way you like. I quite often just paint them direct onto the item that I'm painting, but if you want to plan them, this is an easy way to plan them, is to actually put them all in. As you can see, the easel had gone for a little walk again there, so I had to pull it back. So I'm painting in more leaves. And the reason they're black is because the sun is in the distance in front of them. And if you've ever taken a photograph, you'll notice they're always very dark on the side where there's no sunshine. So there's no need to put colour in them. Just simple black works effectively and gives a beautiful look when it's finished. I'm waffling on here, aren't I? Hopefully this video doesn't go on for much longer. I've run out of things to tell you. So, do you paint? Leave a drop a comment and tell me if you paint. If you got a link to your work, let me see it. I love being inspired by other paintings. This one was actually inspired by somebody that done a pastels drawing where they blend colours together. And I like the concept so much and the actual idea that I decided I was going to do my version of it. Quite a lot of my paintings are my own versions of somebody else's. And as you can see, now that I'm painting these leaves in, the painting is really starting to come together. It's really starting to look like a scene now. Whereas before, the water looked a bit weird. And I must admit, it looked a bit scrappy looking. But once you start putting your foreground in, it doesn't have to be perfect, as I said. It just has to have the concept of what you want it to look like. And again, brown is a very unusual colour to use as water. But water first thing in the morning is never bright blue. It's never green. It's always a murky shade where the darkness is still on it. So this is a nice contrasting colour. It's something different to do. Yeah, I was humming. I'm running out of things to say again. Which, for people that know me, are probably sitting there going, how the hell has she run out of something to say? I am a bit of a chatterbox, I must admit. So here we are, we're doing more leaves, and there's quite a few leaves to go yet. I only really got back into painting because I was ill and I was stuck. We were living at his auntie's house and I had no space to work in. I was literally working around my laptop sitting on a sofa. So I started drawing, which I do a lot of. I draw a lot and I've put out quite a few colouring books that I've drawn for people. And then when we moved, I eventually had space. So out came some canvases and I started painting. And some of my stuff's okay, some of it's awful. I'll admit it myself. It's never perfect, but art is subjective and it's to the eye of the beholder. Some of the paintings that I think are absolutely dreadful, other people love. And you don't need any fear. When it comes to painting, you'll be amazed. You'll be amazed what you can do. Don't be scared of it. Just get some paint and have fun. That's what I'm doing. That's exactly what this painting is me having fun. I'm just daubing paint onto a canvas and seeing what turns out. And it's fun. It's fun to do and it fills your time. It makes you relax. No, I don't get angry while I'm painting, she says. No, sometimes I have got angry with the paintings because they won't go how I want them to. But over the last year or so, I've learned that you don't have to be perfect. Nobody's going to notice if you've just done a little drop of paint in the wrong place or the edges aren't 100% clean and crisp. That's all part of the aesthetics. I wouldn't worry too much about it. Most paintings are looked at from a distance. People aren't up there with a magnifying glass going, oh, you missed a tiny bit. They're not going to say that. They're not going to say, oh, look at that, that's dreadful. They see it as the whole painting. They see it from a distance. This is really starting to come together now. As you'll see, once you start adding the foreground to it, the whole painting starts to gel. And we're still doing leaves. We've got quite a few leaves to go yet. I should have cut this video a little bit more. But as I said, if I could find a way that I could make it fast forward in fast time, then I think it would be a little bit easier for me. So we're getting down the sides now. I'm still doing the same. Just putting a random shape along a little line and then filling it in. You don't want too many leaves. Too many leaves makes it complicated and too fussy. You just want a few leaves just to give the general gist. And don't forget, like I said, some leaves point up, some leaves point down, some points to the side, some curl. Leaves are never perfect or straight or all the same shape. There we go. We're still doing a few more. I suppose I better tell you what type of paints I get. I tend to just get really cheap paints, to be truthful. Well, I did. I've now started moving on a little bit, but most of my paints come either from the Works or from Lidl. Lidl's versions of paints and artistic stuff by Creeland are actually really nice quality to work with. They're lovely and thick, and you can water them down if you want a more watery effect, but they got that nice thickness to them, whereas I find the Works are a little bit on the thin side and they tend to be a little bit too liquidy for me. But there's a real dirty trick for that. If you've got paints, acrylics, that are a little bit too thin, go in your pantry and go find your, I can't even think of the word of it now. Corn flour. Go find some corn flour. And using what I tend to use is a little sieve. And I put a little bit in and sprinkle it on it and mix it in. And keep mixing it in. And it will slowly thicken up your paint. And it doesn't actually affect the colours. And it gives it a nice thicker texture to work with. Because sometimes when you're working with thin paints, they run a little bit or they can bleed a little bit too much. I like mine nice and thick so that I don't have to keep correcting them every now and again or having to adjust what I'm drawing because it's bled into a different area where I didn't want it. So we're on the final set of leaves on these little pampas grass or reeds. I think they're reeds. They were just nice little shapes that I decided to do. So we're getting towards the end of the painting now, which is probably a relief for you more than me. And we've got a couple more leaves to put in down the bottom here, and then we're going to put some grass along the bottom because, well, you know, things on the bank never grow singular, do they? So we're just painting in these last little leaves, another one going down. Still using the black. I actually buy my black and my white in bulk. Whenever it's in stock, I buy 5 or 6 tubes of each colour because I get through so much of it. And another little tip, if you want to keep your brushes nice and clean in between use, I always have one jar for washing them in, and the next jar always has a tiny little bit of flash liquid in it. I find flash liquid really stops them from staying grimy, and when you wash them out afterwards, all the paint comes out of the brush then, and you get nice clean brushes for the next time. So now we're painting in the bits of grass. And as I said, next time I'll probably record from the other side because you're more likely to see what I'm doing. Because being right-handed, I was actually blocking the view to the camera. And just a few nice little pieces of grass. And again, grass goes in every direction and is every shape. So I'm just putting some going one way, some going another way, some folding over, some wiggling. It's all fun. Just wiggle that brush. It's great fun. So here we are, still filling them in, painting the little bits and pieces, and finishing off the painting. There's only a few more to go, and we are nearly there. So we're painting in these last bits of grass, and as you can see, the whole painting is now gelling together. We've got a lovely little sunrise scape ahead of us, both overlooking some muddy water. It still looks like muddy water, but it is actually effective. I just thought it was different to use brown. And some nice mountains and hills in the background being lit up by the sun. Just putting some nice little points on top of the grass. I do like how this painting came out. I'm actually quite impressed with it, because often I have to do 5 or 6 retakes on little bits, but this one just sort of fell together while I was painting it. It wanted to be painted. But as I'm getting more and more practice, I'm finding it easier and easier to actually gel a painting together. Like this one, I decided that the horizon had to be higher up the page. I've got nothing against people putting a centre horizon, but it doesn't ever look quite the right perspective. I find if you put it, say, 3/4 of the way up or 3/4 of the way down the page, or at least a third, and you get a nice perspective view, you don't get that flat look. These are all little tricks I've been learning as I've been painting and going along. So the last little few bits of grass going in, and we're nearly there. And I hope you like it, and I hope you like my painting style. And hopefully next time I'll make the video a little bit shorter so I don't have to waffle on quite so much. And I think I'm about there. Just a few more little dibs and dabs just to straighten bits up. A little more few points on the end of the grass so they could look a bit more pointy. And there we are. We've got a nice sunset. A sunset. No, it's a sunrise. And there you go. There's a photograph of it. Thank you for watching.